Hello, hello, everybody. I hope you are having a wonderful day so far. I hope that you can hear me. I'm going to do a quick sound check right now just to make sure that the sound is working. And then I will get started on our little review session for today. So give me one sec. Yeah, I'm just going to try that again because my iPad was being a little bit wonky there for a second. So this is another sound check. Give me one second. Okay, we good. We good. Okay, so hi everybody. Hope you're having an awesome day so far. Awesome week, awesome month. I know that school is ending and summer is upon us, so I can imagine everyone um is getting ready to relax a little bit more than they've been doing. That is my hope for you guys for this summer, is that you have a nice relaxing summer, a safe summer, and an awesome time. Before we let you guys go to summer, what I wanted to do today, and what I've been doing in each class, is actually kind of reiterating which skills I recommend for you guys to practice and to really get good at over the summer, even if it's just 15 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day. Every little bit counts, which is what people say about exercise too, but I have yet to try it out that way. But I do know for math that it does help. So I'm going to give you guys the main topics that I think you should be looking at and covering over the summer because they come up again in grade 12 advanced functions. And if you have questions about the topics that I'm discussing, please let me know. I'm happy to elaborate. I don't want to bore anyone though, because these are topics we've discussed over um, the duration of freemathhelp.ca's kind of tenure, I guess you could say. So I'm not going to go in depth. I'm just going to kind of tell you which topics are the most important ones. And then if you have questions, we can elaborate on those. So first things first, in the numeracy unit, which is the unit where we learned about radicals and all of that fun stuff. Sorry, just fixing my little pen thing here. There's a lot of things that we talked about that I think are important for you to understand, not just for math, but if you're in the STEM fields in general, if you want to go on and take physics, chemistry, whatever you hope to take, engineering, blah, 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 at the university level, understanding the radical is very important, and radical expressions in general. So that's something I really would recommend you guys go over. So we'll just make a little note of that here. Radicals. And every time I hear the word radical, I think of the guy from The Simpsons that goes, "Radical man." And for some of you who might not have seen The Simpsons because it's a super old show, definitely a classic. Although I know some parents don't like it, so maybe I shouldn't recommend The Simpsons, but I personally think it's comedy gold. Okay, so radicals. So radicals and radical expressions are really important for you to have a good grasp of, because in actuality, radicals are one of the most effective ways of describing numbers. And that's to say that, in the past, we've been taught this idea of decimals being the best final answer, but in actuality, decimals are not the most correct final answer. You're better off saying root 3 as opposed to, I think it's funny that I thought I knew the root of 3 off by heart. I just put in my calculator. So the root of 3 is something like 1.73 blah, blah, blah. In actuality, writing decimals is not the most accurate thing. saying root 3 is more accurate. So even in physics and stuff, I remember my physics textbook in university actually left things in in radical form as opposed to other forms. So, when I talk about radicals and radical expressions, make sure you know how to add them, subtract, multiply, divide. All these things are super important. And also make sure you understand how to simplify mixed radicals, because that's really where it's going to come in handy for you. So this is to say that there's not a specific unit about this in grade 12, but it is an important concept for you to understand. Okay, so enough about that. Next, I think also one thing that's very, very important, I cannot stress this enough, is rational expressions. Okay, guys, I'm going to show you what I mean by rational expression. If I can find the page where I put the ones that I thought were smart. Oh my goodness, where did it go? Okay, so for example, yeah, this is a good example. X squared minus 4 and x squared plus 4. This is what I mean by, this is the type of thing I'm talking about when I say rational expressions. The reason these are so important is because next year, as I mentioned in the freemathhelp.ca live stream when we discussed rationals, you have to learn, you're going to learn how to graph these. And if you don't understand how to, again, add, subtract, multiply, divide, and generally simplify these, you are gonna have a not cute time next year, my friends. So please, 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 if this is something you struggled with, go back and practice it. And for the most part, people who do struggle with this struggle with it for a few reasons. One, I would say that most people I've tutored in the past who struggled with rational expressions were really struggling with um, factoring in general. They just didn't have a kind of immediate factoring ability. That's a really big deal. So I'm gonna say one thing that's super important as well is understanding factoring. Now, again, there's not one specific unit next semester or in advanced functions that has this in it, but the concept of factoring is so, so vital in the understanding of math. It's really essential. And for those of us who, I was a kid who also struggled with factoring when I was first learning it, because I was trying to understand it on a granular level. I was trying to understand it like on a conceptual level instead of just getting in there and practicing. And I'm going to tell you guys one thing with math, like with exercise, it really comes down to doing the work for you to build the skill. It's not vice versa. The biggest mistake I used to make in math studying when I was in high school was that I would study the notes from class as opposed to doing the math, because I was in such a perfectionist mode that I was like, oh no, until I fully understand it, I shouldn't start doing the work. But that's actually a very, very misguided way to get started on math learning, because the learning comes from doing the work. So I probably repeated myself a few times, but if I help even one of you guys change your mindset with regards to how you approach math, I will be fulfilled for the day. Like, I'll be happy. Because most of my day is spent emailing people. So this is like the most fulfilling part of my day. And that's why I really want you guys to leave questions if you have them, because for me as an educator, it really comes down to making sure that you guys feel confident when you leave these sessions. And that's really the goal of everything, whether it's tutoring, teaching, anything. Like, that's really the goal of what we're trying to do here. So again, don't feel embarrassed to ask questions if you have them. If you are watching this quote unquote live stream after the fact and you're watching it on our YouTube channel, you can go to our website, scholarlyelite.com, if you scroll down to the bottom of the first page, you'll see like a submit form. You don't need to submit like the full thing. Just say that you're watching the live stream and you had questions. I'm happy to help you, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, is to help you guys. Okay, back to reality. So in this algebra and number unit, again, like I said, it's very, very important to understand these pieces. I highly recommend that if you struggled with these, go back, watch some of my videos on this channel, and also just take some worksheets that you can find anywhere. Kuda software is really good, and practice them again. If you are interested in tutoring, we are offering online tutoring this summer. However you want to go about this, you know, obviously tutoring is a much more targeted and effective way of doing it because you have someone guiding you and we know exactly where to take you. But you don't have to do tutoring. You can do it any way that works for you. Um, okay, so that's kind of the gist of this. So yeah, so practice these three things, especially rational expressions, you guys, because when you're gonna have to graph them, the simplification of these expressions is going to be your greatest asset. Okay, so that's really nice. Let us move on here. Okay, another unit that I think is very important for you to practice is the exponents unit. So let me just get to that here. 1 second. Actually, before that, we're going to talk about trig. Let's just dive right into it. Trigonometry, our number one guy. We love him. And by we, I mean the people who create math courses love him. Am I spelling it right? Trigonometry. Cool, 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 cool. Okay. This, my friends, is I would say pretty much the most important skill that you can practice before grade 12. Because the grade 12 course, Advanced Functions, is basically just a fancier version of this course where they focus in on these more important units. So there is basically the same way that you had a trigonometric expressions kind of unit in this course, and then you also had a trigonometric graphing unit. Those same two units come up again in the grade 12 course, like literally exactly. Okay, so a couple things I want you guys to understand. First of all, understand angles and standard position. Ooh, position, that's what I'm trying to write. From 0 degrees to 360 degrees. Okay. Within that concept, I also want you guys to understand. Wow, my voice. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. I'm starting to lose my voice. The unit circle. The unit circle is of critical importance. And in this course, we learned about it in degrees, which is cool. But next year, you're going to learn about it in radians. So what I actually think is very good for grade 11 students going into grade 12 advanced functions to do is understand degrees to radians and actually start practicing the unit circle in radians already. And so one way to do that is to memorize the standard triangles that we learned. And instead of memorizing them in degrees the way that you have this year, or hopefully did it this year, memorize them in radians. It will make your life so much easier, you guys. I can't even tell you. Like literally, I cannot express to you how much better it will be if you already know this, because radians is quite a concept to wrap your head around. It's not really something that your brain just does automatically because we've never been taught to think that way. We've always been taught in degrees, and we think of angles in degrees in real life as well. And so it is kind of an interesting concept to gain knowledge of. So keeping that in mind, a couple things within this that you learned this year that I think are very good to understand for next year are related and correlated angles. Okay. And really just memorizing what these mean and how they are important in terms of understanding sine, cosine, tan. So speaking of sine, cosine, tan, definitely obviously remember SOHCAHTOA. That's super important. But beyond that, understand how SOHCAHTOA works within the parameters of the unit circle. That's super important, you guys. So again, the exact values for primary trigonometric ratios are super important. Now, within the trigonometry unit, you guys obviously also worked on trig identities. I think that if you were to just practice trig identities, like literally if you decided to do one identity a day, that is like the smartest thing you can do over the summer. So I'm going to put this here. This is my thing that I highly recommend, even though it's not worth like that many marks overall in the whole course. I do think it'll make your life so much easier. So I will recommend that you do that because next year they get really crazy. And if you didn't understand them this year, it's going to make it really hard to understand them next year. And one thing I want to say in particular with regards to trig identities is understand how you can factor trig identities. Okay, so that's really important. So the notion or the concept of factoring within the idea of trig identities is really important. It's going to be a major piece of the trigonometry unit next year in particular, because this year we only learned a few of the typical kind of standard identities that you can use. Next year, your formula sheet for the identities is a full page basically. And there's so many more. You've got your double angle identities, your half angle identities. You know, it gets much more complex. So I really implore you to go in and practice them again. I know I sound like a broken record, but you guys, trust me, I have to, like, I don't tutor myself anymore because I am busy running this company. But when I used to tutor and when I talk to kids now when we're doing assessments, this is something that comes up over and over again. And I personally believe that it's something that can really be mitigated with just some practice. And part of the problem is that in school, they don't actually give you guys enough time to practice this. And by no fault of any teacher in particular, it really just comes down to the fact that at the end of the day, teachers only have so much time. They have a lot of material to cover, and so they have to get through stuff. And it's not their fault that people don't keep up with their work over the summer or they fall behind, right? Another thing I do want to kind of mention, it's not the most important thing, but sine law and cosine law, just keep them fresh in your mind. You don't have to super practice them, but they sometimes come up. Yay! Okay. Ba, ba, ba. That song, I'm Just a Kid, is stuck in my head. Thanks. Thanks, TikTok. And yes, I am an adult who uses TikTok. There's a lot of stuff on there that you can learn about life if you're not just watching dancing. Although dancing is cool too. So, okay. That is that, my friends, for trigonometry. Let me just double check that I didn't miss anything. But realistically, this is what these really come down to. Like, you have to memorize these things. In particular, like I was mentioning earlier, the unit circle, memorizing the standard triangles in radians, because you already should know them in degrees. And if you memorize the standard triangles, you have let me say it like this. If you memorize the standard triangles and you also understand related and correlated angles, you then have the capacity to understand and to memorize the entire unit circle without ever memorizing anything other than literally two triangles. So, pretty big deal, y'all. Pretty big dealio. Okay. So moving on, let us move on to a new page. As you remember from this course, the trigonometric graphing unit is its own unit, right? Now, just as we were talking about how trigonometry in next year's course is going to be in radians, the same is true for trigonometric graphing. So that's why this repeats itself in grade 12, because it's not really the same exact unit. It's the same concepts, except in radians. So again, my big recommendation, if there's nothing else you do this summer about with regards to math, radians, radians, radians. They are going to be your best friend next year. Really gain an understanding of them and understand how you can apply them. So that's something I wanted to mention to you guys. So trigonometric graphing in there, no, sine of x and the graph of sine of x and the graph of cos of x. Those are very important. And more so, I think it's super, super important for you to understand word problems and how to break them down. again, within this, I'm going to say a million times, make sure you understand radians and how they apply and how they're literally the same concept as degrees, right? Like the same way that the degrees this year were on the x-axis of our graphs, you're going to have radians in that same way, in that same expression on the x part of the graph next year on the x-axis. But if you don't understand radians, you won't understand how to set these up. So it's really important that you really get a good grasp of radians and how to manipulate radians. Okay? So trigonometric graphing, again, go through, you don't have to, you can pre-learn if you want, but you've already learned everything kind of pertaining to this. It's just about understanding radians and how that translates. Okay? Alrighty. So the other unit that I really think you guys need to practice before you go on to grade 12 is going to be exponents and logarithms. You guys, some teachers in grade 11 cover logs, some don't. Logs are basically going to be a whole half of this unit. Rhythms. I feel like I always spell logarithms wrong. Whatever. Practice the exponent laws. Okay, guys? Especially the complex, like, combinations of exponent laws. Because it is a major portion of this whole thing. Understand the relationship between exponents and logs. And if you're feeling fancy, you know, pre-learn the log graph and the exponential graph, because that's a whole part of this unit. Again, these last two things I wrote are not really things you learned in grade 11. Some teachers teach them, but they don't really for the most part. But if you are just bored this summer and you want to get ahead in math, this is the way to do it, honestly. Or you can pre-learn grade 12 advanced functions with us. We do it. We've got our online tutoring is running all summer. We've already amped up. We've got lots of kids starting literally Monday of next week because they want to get ahead. But again, it's up to you and what you want to do this summer. So you don't have to do one thing or the other. I just recommend doing some math so that your brain stays active and that you're not picking up the pieces and having any learning loss next semester. Alrighty, guys. Some core skills that I think are really important. Like I mentioned earlier, don't love that. Oh, was that all together? Some core skills. Understanding polynomials and transformations of graphs. Super important. Super important. Domain and range. I cannot stress enough how important these are. These are going to be relevant for all of the rest of math, including calculus. So if you have any, trouble understanding domain and range, please, please, please try and practice that over the summer or, book a tutoring session with whoever. It doesn't have to be with us, you guys. I just really want you guys to do well because you put in the work. You've gone ahead and you guys, a lot of you guys were joining us every week here. I want you guys to succeed next year, and these are the tools that you can use to succeed without putting too much effort in next year. It'll actually reduce the amount of effort that you have to do later on. So again, practice, practice, practice. Understand your graphing down to the last thing. Understand, vertex form, completing the square. Vertex form is very important because vertex form, if you think about it, if we learned vertex form in grade 10, right? It's this. Well, doesn't this look super familiar from this year when we were learning sine and cos? So let's say we're talking about a sine thing, a sine, and obviously we use some different letters, but it's the same concept, right? You see how these transformations mean the same thing? This is this. Actually, in here, you could technically even have a k value. Not a k, but it would be some other number. to indicate the stretch. Sometimes people use B there as the letter. Anyways, point of the story is that's that. Understanding these kind of fundamental transformation concepts will be so valuable to you next semester for grade 12 advanced functions. Because I'm assuming for those of you who are kind of working ahead, your goal is most likely to take calculus second semester, right? I actually believe and not just believe, I mean, I've talked about this with other math educators, teachers, our tutors. I've talked about this with so many people. Grade 11 functions is, in my opinion, the most convoluted course of all time. It's actually why I like tutoring it so much, because I think that the way that it's taught, there's just way too much material in this course. Like, they could totally get rid of the discrete functions unit and it would make absolutely no difference to your education whatsoever. It's a pointless unit that you don't ever use again unless you take like biology, calculus in first year of university, at which point you have to learn it again because you've forgotten all that stuff anyway, because it's all equations and formulas. So, not to bore you guys, we're not gonna take up the whole session today because obviously this is just kind of an understanding of the review stuff. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or if you have questions that, if you're watching this later and you want to ask a specific question, just go to our website, scholarlyelite.com. You can see it here at the top left. And that will help you. We can help you out there. We love helping our free mathhelp.ca kids. You guys are awesome. Anyways, point of the story here is that a little bit of work over the summer can make a whole world of difference when you go to grade 12 advanced functions. And we know, guys, if you're applying to university, that grade 12 advanced function mark is going to matter so much, because for most of you who want to go into the STEM fields, that's one of the main marks that they ask for. Usually it's like English, advanced functions, calculus, and then your pick of a science courses. So that's kind of the gist of it, you guys. Let me just make sure that I'm not missing anything here for you. But I do believe that is all, my friends. If anyone has questions before we wrap up, just let me know. But like I said, if you have questions and you're watching this later, you're more than welcome to take a look and basically send us a message on our website. We're happy to help, even if it's later. But yeah, no, so these really are those key factors that I really recommend you guys practice. And yeah, so if nobody has any questions, we're going to wrap up. This is our last session, as you may know, for freemathhelp.ca. It has been such a pleasure. I want to actually shout out to the grade 11 class. You guys have been a true. Oh, thank you, Allison. That's so nice of you. Thank you. Honestly, I want to shout out to Allison specifically, who's been coming every week, or I think most of the weeks. And everyone who's joined. You guys have been so much of wow, my brain. You guys have honestly motivated me to keep going with this, and this grade 11 class in particular has done such an incredible job in terms of just keeping up with things, asking really engaged questions. So I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, seriously, for coming out every week. It's meant a lot, and I hope that this has helped you. I hope that this makes your grade 12 year even better. I wish you guys the best of luck. I can imagine if you're the kind of people coming out to this every week that you're going to do just fine in grade 12. But if you take these skills that we talked about and really just hone in on them, I think that you're going to do, it's just going to be easier for you. Not necessarily that, I can't ever claim that someone's going to do perfectly or whatever, because there's so many circumstances that come into play. But you guys are awesome. Allison, thanks again for that comment. That's really, really kind of you, and I appreciate that. You're awesome. Thank you guys. I'm going to let you guys go unless there's any questions. I'll just wait like 30 seconds before we end the stream. But this is going to go live on our YouTube if you wanted to come back and watch this again. And if you wanted to watch it sped up so that my voice is faster, however you want to go about it. But yeah, thank you guys. I wish you the best summer ever. I hope that you have an awesome time this summer. Stay safe out there. And as I've been saying for every session, if anyone is going through a tough time right now and they need to talk to someone, we are big supporters and huge proponents of kidshelpphone.ca. These people on here are amazing. A bunch of our tutors actually are kidshelpphone.ca counselors as well, and they rave about the service. They really think it's wonderful. So again, we're not affiliated with them, but I just think it's a great service out there for anyone who's going through a tough time. But anyways, not to end on that note, but just in case anybody needs that, that's a reminder for you. I wish you guys an amazing time this summer. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy out there. And if you're watching this in post and you have questions that I didn't answer in this, go to scholarlyelite.com. We're always happy to help our freemathhelp.ca students. And that's the gist of it. So thank you guys. Have a good one. And hopefully you'll be back in school killing it starting in September. So talk to you guys whenever we get a chance, and stay safe out there. Thank you guys. Bye.